Well, hello everyone and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today we'll be having an amazing conversation about body image. So many of us have been brought up to believe we're too tall, we're too fat, we've got freckles. I remember you used to be called skinny legs. That was no true, no fault of mine. I've just always been slimmer than normal. And that's just been who I am. My guest today, Clementine, will be telling us about her own journey of being called names, being called big, tall, with filled with freckles, and how she's utilized those mean words to not just find her joy, but to start helping others. There's so many times, so many bad things, or so many pain happens to us in life, but we forget that sometimes those pain are preparing you for something bigger and giving you a platform to help others. And I'm so proud of what she's done. So Clementine is the founder of the All Women's Project. She's established a platform for women to support body positivity, representation, empowerment, and self-acceptance. Her entrepreneurial spirit enabled her to create multiple careers by creating a lifestyle blog reflecting her brand title. Harper Bazaar, the magazine, has recognized her as a face to watch, and Vogue as a top 10 plus-size model to follow. She starred in numerous campaigns from Levi to H&M, Mercy, Nordstrom, Nike, and she spoke at the first TEDx talk in April 2019 in Edinburgh, Scotland. She's a global trotter, activist, an entrepreneur, and model, and she continues to combine her French root, brave heart, and a unique style to build her empire. I'm truly delighted she's taken out the time to talk to me. Let's understand her beginnings and how that has helped her in so many ways to help others. Meet our marvelous guest, Clementine, as she shares her story. Guys, welcome again to Painless Universe, a conversation with myself and Welsh. As I said in my introduction, today's topic is extremely special. I think it's for any young girl out there who needs to find their joy and find their confidence. I think you need to listen and tune into today's conversation. I've said in my intro all about our special guest, Clementine. She'll be telling us her own journey of how she's overcome pain to find her joy. Hi, Clementine, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
I am super excited because, anyone who goes on your Instagram page, if you have no confidence, because you will just find that confidence from somewhere because you were someone who decided to embrace on your own journey. You didn't worry about what the world told about you. Now, before we go into all of that, can you just tell us a little bit about who are you?
Yes, so my name is Clémentine Desseaux. I was born in France and I moved to the US about 10 years ago. Baguette, that's enough.
Yeah, join us in the conversation. Yeah.
That's my dog, Baguette.
Yeah.
So yeah, I moved in the US 10 years ago, mostly to pursue my dreams of living in Miami and being a model. I started, about 10, 11 years ago into modeling, and I got very much into the body positive movement, especially when I moved to New York about 8 years ago. And it was amazing to just discover this whole world of women accepting themselves and their body, and just like knowing that I could be a part of it was just crazy, because growing up in France, I never thought that something like that existed, and even less that I could ever be one of the people involved in it. And so that's how I started. And then about 5 years ago, I started the All Women Project, which is a charity to empower girls and women. providing mostly inspiration, resources, workshops, groups across the country and also in Europe. And I started my production company, which was similar in the similar way to just like produce diverse content, produce things that I didn't see done anywhere else. So that's kind of how I started. Everything was kind of like all together, and I was just like really excited. I'm definitely an overdoer and always busy. I like to be always doing something. So that all happened over the last like 8 years. And I just recently moved back to Miami, finally, last year, which is my favorite place ever. And I'm super happy, you know, modeling through COVID. It's been crazy, just modeling from home, making it work for my clients. Doing production here in Miami is brand new for me. So now it's like all about swimsuit and fun on the beach, and it's great. I love like doing something new. And the charity has been not doing too well, honestly, this year because we've got hacked last year right before COVID, and then COVID hit, so all of our group got shut down. So we've been trying to really reinvent ourselves, create new accounts, just start from scratch. So that's been tough, but we have a great team, and we're just working on providing safe space and inspiration online for now until we can meet again in person, hopefully soon.
I know. Everyone is getting to that stage where we're just so desperate. We just want to meet again and start doing things.
Yeah,
It's much easier than having this conversation even by Zoom.
absolutely.
And still, it's the in-person relationship. We cannot take that away. And when I listen to your story, Clementine, the thing that really stuck out for me is your childhood. Because I always say to people, your childhood makes great memories that makes you become almost like a fighter. Your childhood, can you tell me a little bit about growing up and when you did mention about something about when you were 10 and you from an early age of 10 you were put on diets. Can you just tell me a little bit about growing up and why you always felt that, oh, I'm the big kid, I'm tall. When did you realize that this you were slightly different from the rest?
Um, I think very early on, like, sadly, kids are really mean. Um, and it's just started really early on. Like as long as I can remember, I've been bullied for my weight. So probably 4 years old, 5 years old. Like it was always, it seemed always to be a problem for others. Even though I was a really happy kid, I was always very confident. I was always like the funny one, and I wasn't like in my bubble. I was very much outgoing, and I had a really happy childhood overall. And the one thing that I had to fight was people, starting from kids and family, friends, parents, everyone around, just having something to say about my weight. And I guess when I was a baby, it was cute because everybody likes chubby babies. But as soon as you grow up, the weight becomes a problem.
Yes.
So that's kind of all I grew up, just knowing that I was always the problem child around food. And
Yes.
so the relationship with food kind of became a bit problematic because even though that is still the one thing I love the most over everything else, and it was back then already, but it was really hard because I was feeling always this guilt of like loving something so much when really in the outside world I was being punished for loving it. So I guess mentally it started some kind of unhealthy relationship with food already.
Mm.
And my mom dieted all my life that I was with her. And so early on, I started noticing a lot of, negative talk towards herself, and like things like, oh, I need to lose weight. I'm too big, my thighs, my belly. And so it's like it affects you. Like you just feel like, well, I have those thighs too, I have this belly too, then am I not good either? And so I started dieting with her, just kind of just like, I guess, for fun when I was like 8, 10, just to like try what she was doing. um and it started from there. And
Yeah.
it only got worse because I started dieting. I was a kid, so nothing was wrong with my weight.
Mm.
I was just a little chubby. But then as I was doing diets, I was losing a little bit of weight every time, getting excited, but then becoming miserable, and then stopping, and then eating even more to compensate for my feelings. And so I put on more weight and more weight every time I was doing a diet. And
Mm.
so I ended up at, being like highly overweight by 17, 18. and being about 110 kilos. Um, and that's just how it happened. And then about at the age of 19, I had lap band surgery because I thought that I had tried everything, all the diets in the world. I hated working out, so I figured that would never, change. And so I convinced my doctor to write me a letter to have that surgery, which he did. And I thought that would solve all my problems. That, if something was forcing me to not eat,
Yes.
then I would lose weight. And I thought that was the only way. And you know what? I mean, I don't regret it because my journey is my journey, but I think it caused a lot of problem for me. Like I've been having like gastric issues since I put it on. I've been constipated since I put it on.
Mm.
Um, I mean, it's a lot of shit came from doing this thing.
No, absolutely.
And now I've been trying to take it off for a while, and because of many things, I'm not managing to. So it's gonna take me another couple of years maybe before I can, and it's driving me nuts. And so like that's just all this childhood dealt to doing that, and then handling the consequences now. And right now, I'm even heavier than the day that I put it in, and I'm happier and fitter and stronger than I've ever been. So I'm also like 10 years older, so I feel like there's some stuff that you can only understand when you live and when you grow and with experience. So that's why I say I don't really regret that, because I just feel like I wouldn't have been able to make any other decision at the time. So I can see now like how it affected me and how I wish I would have done otherwise.
I like what you said. We make mistakes in our past that sometimes you hear people done breast implants and they just realize that at the time. I remember when I was much younger, because I've been always been tiny frame. I could I could eat. You and I could go out and you'd be wondering how comes Anne eats more than I do, but Anne still doesn't put on weight. I just don't know why. I'm not the kind that will put on weight, but at the same time, it had a reverse effect on me because people always assume, oh, you're so skinny. What are you doing? Or why are you doing this? I'm like, I'm doing nothing. This is who I am, you know. And then because of it, I wanted to do breast implants, and I thought, this would be really nice if I go get breast implants. At least I could look, because then when you have breast implant, it makes this part look really, it makes you look bigger. And I look back at it and I say, thank God I never did the breast implant, because I think I would have more problems now in the future if I did it back then. And I listen to your story, but at the same time, your own journey is also preparing other people, because so many young people out there are thinking of doing the same, going through this path and saying, oh, probably I should do the tummy thing and this might help me. But sometimes it's not always the solution. And sometimes the solution lies in you just learn to embrace who you are, and other people just have to embrace you. And that touched me on to your own conversation when you talked about leaving France to go to USA, Miami, I think was it, and how you saw that change in the embracement of culture. How did this make you feel when you realized that, oh my goodness, people in America are actually quite liberal. They're not too a big. It's not a big deal if you are slightly overweight. In fact, they're actually embracing it. How did that help you?
Well, I always say like the day that when I moved to Miami, I was born again, because I felt like, I don't know, like all this time I've been suffering from like what others thought of me and what like French people think beauty is. And then I moved to Miami, and I walk out in the street and nobody's looking at me weird. Nobody's like making any comment on my figure. If anything, people are like, women are complimenting me for my curves, things I've never heard before. And it kind of hit me that maybe I just grew up in the wrong place. And I don't know, to me, I was born again. Like I started feeling confident. I started wearing like dresses without leggings, which I would have never done in France. Like being in a bikini, like it was just like a reborn. Like I was like, whoa, like my body is actually acceptable here. And not only that, but it's also like valued and seen as good. And so that was like a big reveal for me, and it was amazing, and I just loved that. And even though my self-acceptance journey was not anywhere to what it is now at the time when I first moved here, but it really gave me that big boost of confidence and enough to actually like pursue my career and enough to like think I was worthy enough to actually go for it. Because before I never really thought it would be a thing. I thought it was just like some fun and that was about it. And I could never do anything of it. But then moving here really like gave me wings, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can imagine that because when you're in an environment when people are so free, it's just unbelievable. Then the big thing came, you went American Apparel, you started doing work for them. How did you decide to say, okay, myself, I want to go into an industry, the very industry that's so biased into the way we look, the way we have to, the way our body has to be. How did you decide to go into a very body critic industry and
Well,
started off with American Apparel?
Well, it first started in France. I was like 16, 17 when I did my first like test images with like a professional photographer. And I started seeing myself through the camera and through other people's eyes. And that's when I first started to notice, oh, like I can actually be beautiful and I can actually be photogenic. And so that's kind of how it started in my head. And then I had this big French commercial. Like I was the first like plus size woman on TV for like a plus size brand in France. And when it got released, I got such a wave of like love and attention from women in France, like telling me things like, oh, I can't believe like you look like me and you're on TV. I can't believe like curves are shown in France. And this whole like thing, I was like, whoa, like if I can make women feel like that just by like being me,
Mm.
like dancing in a bodysuit, like randomly, like it's amazing. And so that's when it started. Like that's what I wanted to pursue. I wanted to give women that feeling by just being me. And so when I moved to Miami, that's when I applied for the American Apparel campaign. I just saw it, I don't even remember where, somewhere on Facebook, and it was called The Next Big Thing. So I figured they're open to bigger women. That's what the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
So I sent some pictures, random pictures that I had from France. And I think the next day or like a couple days later, like their casting director called me and they were like, hey, like we'd love to, you know, make you the winner. Would you be able to come to LA like in a couple weeks? And I was just like, what? I didn't really know what American Apparel was at the time, but I remember I was working as a waitress here in Miami in a French restaurant, and I told one of my friends that was American, oh, I might fly to LA for this American Apparel thing. And he was like, what? And I was like, do you know it? He was like, of course I do. It's American Apparel. I was like, okay, cool. And then he showed me and I was like, oh, that's nice. And then that was my first like working trip. Like they flew me out to LA and I was there 3 days just shooting around with this cool like chick photographer. And we're just like, you know, in our bodysuit for 2 days, 3 days. And that was really cool. And then I came back to Miami and I was just like, really pumped and like excited, and I was like, okay, I think I like that. I like that, like it's fun. And I think like to me it was not really as much going into an industry that was so like restrictive in many ways, but it was more about the challenge of making it better and the challenge of like being a part of the change.
Mm.
Because the only change I had, like I remember when I was 14, 15, Crystal Ren, when she was still plus size, she did this campaign for Mango at a size 16, so like 46 French. And she was gorgeous and she was on my walls. Like I was like, oh my God, like she's my size and she's working for this awesome brand. And that was all I had. Like there was nothing else to prove me that it could be done. And so when I moved here, I started discovering more and I was like, wait, it looks like maybe I could be part of that. Maybe I could change this thing too. And so, you know, that's what got me excited.
I'm glad you did actually, because
Yeah, me
you
too.
really have made a big difference in this whole thing. I'm glad you did. So after that American Apparel, you went on to bigger and better things and now much more than just the American Apparel. How did you go on to bigger things? Like you went H&M, you went to Levi. What happened? How did that take off?
Well, I signed in Miami. My first agency was in Miami, and They helped me out a lot. They did my first visa so I could stay. Like, it was really awesome. But Miami was still really slow for me, and I felt like I wasn't right for the market. So about a year and a half later, I signed with Muse in New York, which is still my agency. And they flew me there, and they were like, look, girl, like, you got to move here because the market's here, the clients are here, like, your profile doesn't belong in Miami, it belongs here. And so after a lot of convincing, because I loved Miami, I didn't want to leave, I finally moved to New York. And that's when things really, like, I don't know, I remember I moved to New York with 3,000 euro that my mom let me borrow. And I told her, like, in 3 months, if I'm not making money, I would just come home because I don't have no money to live here.
Yeah.
And about 3 months in, like, my agency advanced me money for the first 3 to 6 months just so I can still make it. And then I started getting paid, like, often. I started, like, booking gigs on a regular basis every week, and then it got better and better, and I started booking Levi's, Ecom, and Campaign, and then all my regular New York client. I mean, within 6 months there, like, I could easily, like, live there and just afford my life there. So it was really awesome. And so I told mom I'm never coming back.
She must have been. Was she in two minds about it? Did she want you to actually come back? Do you think?
I think she wanted to, but but just because she was scared, probably.
Yes,
But
exactly.
she came a little bit later, after like 6 months, a year that I was there, and she said I was doing fine, I was safe, and I was living in a okay, like, area, and yeah, I think she was fine after that. But yeah, both my parents, I think, were really worried for a bit, because it's not a regular path, and it's not a safe path, and
Yeah.
I was very much alone. So, it was a bit more scary for them than it was for me, really. But yeah, after, they realized I was doing well, I was booking all the good clients, and it was regular, and I didn't have to ever ask for money again after that. So they were happy.
Okay. This happened. You started doing your modeling. What inspires me is that you decided to set up an agency to help other women. And this agency went viral. Could you tell us about this agency and what was the whole thing? What led you to that moment and how did this thing go viral and now your agency started taking off?
So it's not quite an agency. It was more a collective of women coming together to create change. It was Charlie Howard, which is British, and we met. We were from the same agency, and we had this discussion over plus size model and straight size models never being able to work together, to be on the same campaign, to be on the same editorial, and how body positivity is always something like that is portrayed at very cheesy, very commercial, very, like, not editorial, not sexy, not cool. And so we wanted to change that. I remember our thing was we wanted to make it Vogue worthy. And so we called up on a lot of my friends that I've been having, like, the last year, like Iskra was there, Denise was there, like Elliot, like all of our model friends of different sizes and ages and colors. And we were like, look, we have this idea, we want to do this editorial with all of us together, no separation of sizes or types or ability or anything, and just make it beautiful, and then just pitch it to the press and show them that diversity can be amazing regardless of which models you use. And so we did that. Heather Hazan and Lily Cummings, my two friends, are photographers and videographers, shot it for us. And then we started pitching it to contacts that we had at Vogue, Teen Vogue, New York Times. And surprisingly, like, we really didn't expect any of it, but they all wanted exclusivity on it. They all wanted to show it. And then we were like, what? I guess, like, you were just, like, so surprised that what we thought was worthy, they also thought was worthy. And
Mm.
so we actually had to hire PR at this point, because it was so much, like, things coming from everywhere. We were just like, we can't handle it. So they negotiate exclusivities, and then they put it worldwide. It was in India, in Chile, and everywhere. And so that was awesome. That was our first campaign, clearly showing that diversity and representation was definitely a craving.
Mhm.
And then from there, we decided to work more with brands to really show them how to work the diversity and the representation side of things. So we did a few more campaign with Nike, with Aerie, and then soon after, Charlie and I parted, and I stayed as the CEO, and I really wanted to turn it into a charity, because that's, to me, that was the goal. That was not only to just like show off models and beautiful images, but really the goal was to help women feel empowered, feel inspired, go through their self-acceptance journey, and just see that there is beauty in all of us. So I did that, turned it into a charity, and I mean, it's been awesome since then, but it's slightly changed. So now we're doing a little bit less collaboration, even though we do every few months. Like, we have video series, photo series to really like show our work on representation, on casting, on all of that we do. But the really core goal is really to inspire and empower women. We used to do workshops and monthly meeting in different cities across the US for young women and girls before COVID, hopefully soon again. And we do a lot of online content, workshop, lives, interviews to really just push this message that is based on self-acceptance to women and girls. And we work with a lot of famous models and photographers and people that really help us grow and spread our message.
Yeah. Now, how has it been? How have women taken to this new concept, especially when they see themselves, when you tell them that you are beautiful, it doesn't matter what shape or size you are definitely beautiful. How have women taken on this your initiative?
um I mean, it's never easy. I think they love seeing the content,
Yeah.
but for some reason it is hard for them to see themselves as that. Like, they have no issue seeing my size 18, 16 body as beautiful, my hanging belly as beautiful, my cellulite as beautiful. But for some reason it's still really hard for them to connect the dot, and knowing that if they think I am beautiful just the way I am, they also are. And so that connection is what is what I'm trying to work on my personal channels, and also on the All Women Projects channels, because they still have a really hard time seeing themselves as worthy. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is how can we create content and messages that are like putting that into their brain in the best way.
Mm.
But yeah, but I mean, overall they love in it. They just have a really hard time making that connection.
Are you teaching them? Because I know one of the key things, Clementine, you tend to do is that you talk about self acceptance and self love. Do you think is if we start talking about these meaning more and more, that people need to learn to accept, and not just accept but also love who they are? Could you just explain, because this is something you're very, you talk very openly about. Could you just explain the two concepts and how that can inspire someone else to learn that and then translate into their own behaviors?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say they can't be self-love until the self-acceptance, and it's slightly different things for me, in the way that self-acceptance is most of your journey, self-love is kind of the goal. um Love is really hard to achieve, but acceptance is easier, because acceptance is just accepting yourself at whatever size, whatever condition, whatever day that it is, your bad day, your good day, the fact that you're imperfect and fully yourself. And weight should not change acceptance. You can accept yourself the whole time. And sometimes it is hard to love yourself, but accepting yourself comes first. So like working on that is the most important thing. And I would say working on that, it is hard and it can be very abstract, but there's a few things that you can do that actually are helping. One is very big online, because self-acceptance is intensely um, change with what you see online, how you see people, like the press, like Instagram. So like first curating what you see is like the most important thing right now, especially for young people. Like who you follow, is anyone making you feel uncomfortable? Is anyone making you not worthy or make you want to change yourself? Like unfollow those people. Follow more body positive people. Follow more people that actually look like you, that you can look up to and identify with. Stay away from the press. Stay away, for me, is stay away from the press, like at the register. Stay away from the commercials. Fucking hate commercials. They just drive me nuts. Like things like that. Stay away from comparing yourself. So that's the first thing. And also curate your circle, because like when I speak with women, I realized that a lot of people in their close circles, including family and friends and sometimes partners, are the one making them feel not worthy, or like they should change themselves. So I think creating your circle is also very important. Like we don't realize it, but there's so many toxic relationships in our very close circle that we need to get rid of. And when you change this environment, very much likely you'll change how you see yourself and how you're able to accept yourself. So there is big steps to take, but I think they're very much possible, and everybody can do it. But it is a long journey. That's always why I say, like, there's no 1-2 things to do and then you accept yourself. It's very, very long, and it's up and down too. And I think like just talking to your community, whether it's online or in person, really help, because we all have so much insecurities that are ridiculous to others, that only matter to us, and that we're the only one to like suffer from. Like, you know, my friends, like my best friend is really skinny, and she has awful insecurity concerning a body that to me are so ridiculous, because I don't even see what she's talking about. It's in her head. And so I think like when she talks about it to me, then I just let her know that not only I don't see it, but also I see plenty of the beautiful thing that she doesn't see. So I think the community is very important in the work of self-acceptance. It's really hard to do it on your own because we're so affected by what other people think of us. So it really helps to just open up and be vulnerable as much as you can and talk about it, because it's probably going to help you accepting yourself in the long run.
I like that. Open up and just also analyze your circle and analyze people around you, because it's true. The people you hang around with are most likely they influence your behavior, they influence your thoughts. And if you see there's some negative coming through us from that side, it's either you tell them that this is not, I don't like this because it gives me some insecurities, or you know, you make it known to them. So I really like that, because a lot of people don't think that way. They don't think that it's just not, this insecurity is not just coming from them, but it's coming from a wider angle. Another thing I love about what your work you do is that you're very open about the way you model. When you did your campaign, you made the you were in bikini. Why did you think you wanted to go that route, and you know, rather, you know, just let the girls really show themselves, showcase themselves?
Well, part of the things that I noticed early on when I did that French commercial like 12 years ago, is that I was dancing in my bodysuit in that commercial, and women could see my cellulite shaking. They could see my tiger stripes. They could see my belly. They could see my arms jiggling, and and that's what really like spoke to them. And from that day on, I noticed that every time I was showing what is widely supposed to be an insecurity, or like a weak point or something like that, and I was showing it like openly, it made them feel like super empowered, and it made them feel like, well, they're not that bad. If they can see it on me, and if I dare to show it, then they should be also like open into showing it. But like also it's just like insecurities are, and shame, they're rooted in shame. And I feel like if you just like openly show something, then you kind of take the shame away from it. You know, if somebody is always criticizing your belly and you're always hiding it because you feel so bad, but at some point, if you just decide to wear crop top and bikinis and everything, and just like, here's my belly in your face, what are you gonna say now? And most likely the answer is nothing. Because when you show off something, when you're proud of it, and when you put it forward, it kind of just like cut people off in a way that they're like, I can't say anything to you anymore to shame you, because clearly you're not ashamed.
Yeah.
So I think there's also this way, you know, like the more you show it, the less shame you feel about it, and the easier it's going to be to accept it for yourself. Like for me, that's how it helped me with my journey too. The fact that I was able to share that with everyone online, that I was able to talk about it, to be vulnerable, that really helped me grow in my self-acceptance journey. And I think it also helped other women seeing it. And like so many women told me, oh my God, like I keep seeing you in your bikini, like that's it, this year I'm buying one, this is the year, you know. So like things like that really make me feel good, because I just feel like I feel so amazing when I'm wearing swimsuit. This is my favorite thing to wear when I'm on the beach, at the pool. I'm like, how can women like just take that away, like not have that at all, just because they feel shame or they feel bad about one little thing in their body? Like it's so sad. Like
That's
I
true.
want everyone in bikini on the beach. It's so beautiful.
Is that something I never thought that way actually? That when someone's shaming you, you just let it all out and see what else they can pick up. One of the key things that's always in the media is and especially in the United States is the obesity. And they, especially when COVID hit, they talked about obesity, people with, who are slightly obese. You saw in the UK, our prime minister had to go on a diet to try and keep himself, to try and get himself fit, especially when the first pandemic hit. How can we easily promote obesity and healthy to because I always say to myself, I don't think everyone who's fuller is obese or unhealthy. I seen, one of my personal trainers, she's bigger body, and she said I've always been like this, and she's so healthy. So I always wonder, how can we promote the two? Because you might help me with that quite answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real problem about fat shaming and fat phobia everywhere. I mean, especially where I'm from in France, it's huge. In the Europe and in America as well. It's obesity. It's something that you use very fast, and there's a lot of judgment attached to it. And like you said, some people can be considered obese and be really fit and really strong. Like for me, like I'm considered like severely obese, so like almost like I'm in like the you're gonna die like category, like dark red, right? If you follow my BMI, like I'm really high, but like I work out 5 times a week. I eat healthy. I'm like stronger than ever. Like, so I feel really good. But you know what? Like doctors would tell me that I'm dangerously obese. But that's just show you how the medical field, when it comes to judging a body, it's very outdated. And you have some doctors that get that and you have some that don't. And I think that's also the reason why a lot of bigger people are scared to go see the doctor. Like I was, like a few months ago, I had to finally pick like a general doctor, and I was freaking out because I was like, I don't want to deal with this shit. I don't want to deal with the whole obese thing discussion. Like, and so yeah, I think there's a lot of misconception. Like I have a lot of friends that are super skinny, that never move their body, that have like terrible blood samples and stuff. Like, and it means nothing. And obesity is a thing. You can be obese and you can still be healthy, but also if you're not healthy, that's your problem. I just feel like, why is it such a big deal? Like, why do you have to be healthy? You know what I mean? It's like you can just not be and you do whatever you want. Like not everybody has to work out like every day in order to be happy and love themselves. Like some people just choose not to, and I think we should also normalize that. Like why do we need to be judged if we choose not to be healthy? I
Mm.
don't really get that. I mean, it's a personal choice in the end, and I don't see why it should be judged. Like it's a personal choice, but
Yeah.
the truth is that you can be obese
And be
and
healthy.
healthy. Like
That's
I'm literally like
wow.
an example, and I know so many women, uh, including models. They're gorgeous, they're strong, they don't even have a belly, they're like beautiful, but they're still considered obese. If you look at their BMI, they're still obese. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a fucked up way. And I
Yeah.
think like it puts a lot of pressure on women and on their body, because they have to now, like not only their weight is an issue, but also their BMI number is an issue. Like what the doctors say to them can be really triggering. Like it's so many problems around that, honestly.
I mean, it probably needs to be reviewed in the future. The way it's
Absolutely.
analyzed, because some people who are skinny and they're so unhealthy, they
Mhm.
really are unhealthy. They're just naturally skinny, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean anything. Now, final question: what's your hope for diversity in terms of fashion, in terms of body weights, in terms of color? What's your hope for the future?
Oh, I mean, I have great hopes. I think honestly, since I started in this industry and since I moved here, it was a really, really big transformation. I remember when I first moved here, people were telling me, "You're too exotic," or like, "You're too like special looking. You're not gonna work," like this and that, and because the only other option was blonde, blue eyes, white girls. So of course I was like the special one back then. But now you look at the industry and you see the amazing diversity of color, of sizes, of heights, of ability, of gender, of age. Like it's insane. It's like all things that I had never seen just like 6 or 7 years ago. So I think that the rate at which it's been developing is really fast. And so my hope is just that it just gets bigger and better and faster. And you know what, like a lot of questions that I had like a few years back were like, oh, do you think it's a trend, or do you think it's gonna stay forever? I mean, I always thought it's gonna stay forever, and now more than ever it's been here for so long and it just keeps on getting better. So I don't think it is going anywhere, and I'm really excited to see like what kind of like role models and models and people we're going to see in the press and in campaigns and in movies and in shows in the future. And hopefully that's going to help our younger girls and women to just like feel represented and feel better about themselves.
Absolutely. I really applaud you for the work you're doing in empowering women around the world. And you, Vogue has recognized you, Harper Bazaar have recognized you. Your work is truly, truly fascinating, and also being so open about it and not being ashamed or shy, because so many your girls are looking up to you, and just by one person making that big difference takes another girl from being saying to herself, "I'm going to starve myself," and sometimes she's not even eating that much. It's just the way she's built, and your work shines that light. And I want to applaud you to keep shining, keep doing what you're doing, Clementine. And I think the future is bright for many others who are insecure in one way or the other. It doesn't matter if it's
Thank you.
childreness or other things. There's so many other insecurity we women go through, and you shine that light to really say enough, embrace yourself and love yourself. Not easy, but one day at a time. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's all that matters. One day at a time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.